your invoice date, and your description of the goods. Likewise, this 64 digits invoice IRN number will be generated. Now, the full form of IRN number is invoice reference number. Along with this IRN number, you will get the acknowledgement number and acknowledgement date. Now, this acknowledgement number will be serially numbered and it has nothing to do with your invoice series. Okay, acknowledgement date cannot be post dated, it will always be a current dated acknowledgement date. Request you to please mute yourself. Okay. Apart from that, there are certain transaction details category B2B, document number, that is your invoice number, invoice date, type of document type, whether it is a tax invoice or it's a export invoice. Then comes your party details, GST number, name, address, purchaser detail about your customers, then dispatch from where it is dispatched, bill to, ship to address. So if you go through all the details of this GST invoice, this is similar to the invoice pattern which you are currently using. So this is the e-invoice format, and most of the, I think 99.9% of all these informations are still available on your portal. Now we come to the turnover limits and timelines for e-invoicing. So as you all aware that for taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is more than 500 crores, the e-invoicing has already been started and it has been started from 1st October 2020. For taxpayers whose aggregate turnover is more than 100 crores, the e-invoicing is applicable from 1st January 2021. Now, what are type of information or what type of documents you are supposed to upload on the portal is B2B invoices, then credit notes and debit notes. Okay. Now, these invoices, credit notes and debit notes which you issued, it is for the B2B category, business to government category and exports. As of now, this B2C transactions are kept away from the e-invoicing, even for the 100 crores turnover and for the 500 crores turnover. Only thing is that if the taxpayer's turnover exceeds rupees 500 crores, in that scenario, they are supposed to generate a dynamic code which is to be printed on the invoice. Now, this self-generated dynamic code has nothing to do with your e-invoicing. That is simply you have to incorporate on your invoice format. Okay. Now this is supposed to be started from 1st December 2020, but in that case the penalty, currently the penalty is being waived off till 31st March 2021. You can generate B2C, you can generate QR code from 1st April 2021 will become compulsory, but there is no penalty as of now from December to 31st March 2021. Okay. Now we come to what is the aggregate turnover. Aggregate turnover is defined under section 2 of GST law, which says that aggregate turnover will comprise of the following supplies, that is a taxable supply, export sale, nil rated or exempt supply or deemed supply, and that is supposed to be computed on a PAN basis, not on the state basis. So there are certain confusions among the taxpayer whether the aggregate turnover is to be considered for state level or for a PAN level. So I want to clarify that you are supposed to take the aggregate turnover on your PAN India basis. Okay, and these all turnovers you are supposed to compute when you have to consider when you compute your aggregate turnover for a particular financial year. Now, what are the major points which you need to confirm when you to be noted when you compute the aggregate turnover? So first of all, this inward supply on which RCM is applicable, you are not supposed to consider this, which is clearly mentioned in the GST law itself. Okay. Most important thing is this aggregate turnover of the business. If it exceeding 100 crores, then you have to see the criteria for any of the previous 3 financial years of GST regime. It means that from 2007, July 17, 18 till date, if any of the preceding financial year, if your turnover exceed 100 crores, in that case, you are supposed to generate e-invoicing from the applicable date that for 100 crores, which is 1st January 2021. and for the 500 crores, of course, from October 2020. So, for example, in 2018-19, say your turnover was 150 crore, but in 19-20, your turnover has reduced to 80 crore. So, you are supposed to generate e-invoice in this period. Okay. Aggregate turnover will be computed on PAN basis and not on state turnover basis. I have already clarified. And deemed a supply, that means the stock transfer. If you are making within a PAN, in that category also you are supposed to consider for aggregate turnover, because different states within a same PAN will have different turnover. In that case, GST turnover will be considered. We go to the next slide. If you have any questions, please note it down. We will take up in the later part of this presentation. Now comes which all entities and which all sectors are exempt from e-invoicing. First of all, the special economic zone units, they are if they are supplying, they are exempt from e-invoicing. Second part is insurer or banking company or a financial institution, they are exempt from e-invoicing. In that case, they are exempt from e-invoicing. Supplier of passenger transport service and the supplier of service by way of admission to exhibition of cinematographic films, these are exempted from e-invoicing. So here they had exempted not a particular service which is provided by the entity, but the whole entity is exempted from generating e-invoicing. Okay, for say if in case of special economic zone, if a taxpayer has a CES unit as well as DTA unit both, so in that scenario, they have to combine the turnover of the CES and DTA units, and if their turnover exceeds rupees 100 crore, so whatever supplies DTA units are making to their to their suppliers in that to their customers in that scenario will be applicable for the DTA units and not for the cells. Okay, now we come to how we will arrive at aggregate turnover. First is that you have to compute your turnover. Now, even if you are facing some issues or you are not sure whether your aggregate turnover, whether e-invoicing will be applicable to you or not, then this NIC portal has come up with a solution where you can search the status of the taxpayer, where you can go and check whether e-invoicing will be applicable to you or not. So you just have to log into http einvoicing1.gst.gov.in. This screen will come. In that case, you have to select the tab search and e-invoice status of the taxpayer. When you click on the e-invoice status of taxpayer, you are supposed to put their GST number in this scenario. In that case, when you click on the go, you will get a trade name and the status whether e-invoicing is enabled or not. If it is disabled, then I say e-invoicing is not enabled for this taxpayer. And if it is enabled, it will say e-invoicing is enabled for this taxpayer. So here you can come to know whether you are eligible for e-invoicing or not. In the similar manner, you can also check for your vendors whether they are eligible for e-invoicing or not. Okay. Now, what are things you are need to prepare for e-invoicing? So, since it's a big change which the government has brought, so in this scenario, you need to prepare yourself. So, we'll see the 6 major things which you are supposed to do to implement the e-invoicing. First of all, that I already told you that you have to compute your aggregate turnover every year to see whether your turnover has been increased or not. So if in any of the previous year, if your turnover is increased, then if turnover is more than 100 crores, in that scenarios, you are liable to generate e-invoicing. But there are there are certain scenarios that currently the company do not have the turnover of more than 100 crores. Then going forward for the 2021, they are supposed to compute whether their turnover will get increased in this year. In the if their turnover get increased, then in that scenario from 1st April 2021, they are supposed to generate the e-invoice. Okay. After that, you have to decide about the integration approach, where whether you want to go for a manual approach or you want to go on a real-time basis. These all approach we will discuss on in a later part of our slides. After that, once you decide for the data integration, you have to decide for the ERP partner or the tool which you want to prefer. After that, you have to design your invoice template to accommodate IRN, QR code, and other details provided by government. So QR code is compulsory to be printed on the invoice. IRN and other details like acknowledgement number and acknowledgement date is not compulsory, but if you wish to incorporate that detail also, you can do that. The most important thing is that once this system will be online, your customer and vendor master need to be updated, because from the system itself your tool will take up the customer and master customer details like their pin code, like their GST number. So it should be updated, otherwise error will come at time when you generate the e-invoice. So it's become very essential for all of you to update your customer and vendor master. Okay. So now I will take you through what is the process flow of e-invoicing, how this e-invoicing will work. So here I have taken a taxpayer whose turnover is more than 100 crores. So he is supposed to send all the invoice details like the GST number, invoice date, their description of goods, and then after that, that information will be transferred to IRP, that is Invoice Registration Portal. Now, what is the role of this IRP? The IRP will check and validate all the information which has been transferred from taxpayer to IRP portal. It will check whether the invoice format is correct or not, whether there is any special character in invoice, whether the GSTN number is correct or not, or the most important thing, whether the same invoice number has been received. If the same invoice number is received, the IRP voter will not accept this information. It will again throw back to the taxpayer. Okay. Now, once if the say for example, if all the information are perfect and there are no error, then the IRP portal will send the IRN number, which is 64 digits character, acknowledgement number, acknowledgement date, and status. Status, it means it will show you whether this IRN is active or whether this IRN is cancelled. Okay. After that, signed QR code and signed invoice data will be sent to the taxpayer. Now, what is the role of IRP? The IRP will store the information only for 24 hours. After that, its information will not be available. So within 24 hours, it will send the information to GST, where it will automatically update it on your GSTR1, and to the respective customer, where it will auto-populated in GSTR2. So if you had checked your GST portal for filing of this November month return, in that case, in the month of December, all the information which are thrown to IRP, that information is auto-populated in the month of December. So currently, the process has been started and all your information is available on your GSTR1 also and to your customer. So there will be a lower dependability on the this GSTR1 to upload additional information on the GSTN. If all your invoices are B2B and e-invoicing is applicable, it will get automatically auto-populated in your GST returns. In the similar manner, IRP will also send the information to e-way bill system, where your part A and part B of your e-way bill will get auto-populated. If you send Part B information like the transportation detail, vehicle number, transporter name. In that scenario, your Part B will also get auto-populated in e-way bill. So this is the process where your IRN will get generated and how this whole system will work. In the case of B2C customer, where the taxpayers has turnover more than 500 crores, and if they are having a B2C sales, in that case, they are supposed to generate QR code and print on the invoice. It has nothing to do with the IRP. I hope I am clear. Okay, we move to the
Yeah,
next
move
slide.
on. Yeah, you can move on.
Yeah.
Can you repeat the B2C process, please?
B2C process in that if the taxpayer turnover is more than 500 crores and if they are selling goods to B2C customers, in that case, they have to generate a QR code which is to be system generated. It has nothing to do with the IRN or nothing to do with the IRP portal. That QR code is to be system generated and is to be printed on the invoice. That's it. That's the only compliance which they have to do.
Can you explain, Arifa, what is the information to be stored in that QR code so that it is clear
QR code,
that
see,
why
as
QR
of,
code is required?
okay, as of now, they have not defined the format for the QR code. It may be your GSTN number, invoice number, in whatever format you want to store that you can store in this QR code. But as of now, department is not clarified what are information are supposed to be there in your QR code. I'm clear? Any
Yes.
question?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah, yeah, please.
Sorry to disturb. Can you let me? This is Srinivas from Chennai.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, hi, madam. Can you let me the process for a detailed process of interest and penalties once again?
Interest and penalties for e-invoicing?
Yes, correct.
So there is no such penalties which has been levied, but a general penalty may be imposed. That may be a 25,000 penalty, which is general penalty we mentioned in the GST portal. So as of now, they had not come up with this, and they provided a relaxation for the month of October also. But the general penalty may be imposed upon you if you are not complied with this e-invoicing law.
Yeah, see, even from 1st October onwards, afterwards, 500 crores, those who are applicability case is still as of now, if they're not generating any e-invoice means, is there any penalty?
That's what I'm saying. As of now, they cannot come up with any penalties. General penalty may be levied upon you once the department visit to your office and once the department issue a notice to you that you are not complied for the e-invoicing. They may throw you with the penalty of 25,000. That is a general provision, general penalty provision in GST law.
Okay, suppose if the company able to generate the e-invoice, that means they are starting e-invoice at current date, that means present date, can we generate the e-invoice for all invoices, backdated invoice also from October onwards now?
As of now, portal allows you to generate the e-invoices of backdated. Only thing is that the acknowledgement number and acknowledgement date will be of current dated.
Okay, I think
So the
if we can
officer,
take the questions later on, it will be better so that the flow of the presentation does not get break. Srinivasanji, if you can just kind of keep your questions ready in the question and answer session, it will be better.
Okay,
So that,
thank you. End of the session.
yeah, we have kept some time for the question and answers at the end of the session.
Thank you, sir.
I agree. Please continue.
Yeah, if I can continue. See, I think on the process side, Arifa, there are some messages which I'm like on the chat are there. If you can repeat the process once again for the clarity of all, it will be good. I think because a lot of people have
Right.
sent messages that they want to understand the process once again. So that you can repeat.
Okay. So I'll again start with the process. So taxpayer whose turnover is more than 100 crores, they are supposed to send the invoice details. Invoice details means your invoice number, invoice date, customer GSTN number, customer GST name, address, description of the goods, quantity of the goods, value of the goods, all these information which are present in your invoice, that details you are supposed to the IRP, that is a invoice registration portal. Now, what is the role of this IRP portal? IRP portal will validate all the information which are present on your invoice, and it will check the duplication error, it will check the GST and validation error, it will check the invoice format error and all other errors which may be there in your invoice. If any error occurs, say for example you have missed this is 15 digit GSTN, but you have missed one character in GSTN, then GSTN will become invalid. Okay, or if you have issued a duplicate invoice, in that scenario IRP portal will throw an error on these invoices and will not accept this information. Now, once this error comes to you, you are supposed to correct all your errors and again send a fresh data to IRP portal. Here, once your data are correct, IRP portal will share your information to the GSTN, where your GSTR1 and your customer GSTR2 will get auto updated. In response to in response to the invoice details, IRP portal will send you the IRN number, that is a 64 digits, and this 64 digits has been defined by the department, that it will comprising of your invoice number, GSTN number, your GST number and your customer GSTN as well, then your invoice date, HSN code of your product, all these details will be captured in your IRN. Okay, acknowledgement number and acknowledgement date will also be given back to you. Now, once this information has been updated on GST portal, this on the simultaneously, this information will get auto populated on your e-way bill, that is part A and part B. Part A information contain all the details which are available on your invoice, and part B comprises of your transportation detail and vehicle number. If all this if all your information you provide to the IRP, that your e-way bill number will get automatically generated. Now this auto population of GSTR1 and GSTR2 has already been started by the GSTN. In the current month, in December month, if you can log in, you can see if all our vendors, all your vendors who have filed their whose turnover is more than 500 crores, they may have uploaded the invoice in your name, and it will get auto populated in your Annex 2, in your GSTR2. Okay, and for 500 crores I've already explained. We quickly move to the next slide. Now, what are the options available for compliance? The first option is how you can manually upload this e-invoice on NIC portal. I'll just quickly take you through the process. Now, this is the e-invoicing portal. Here you will find the tab tools, where you can select the option bulk generation tool. In bulk generation tool, a tool Excel based tool will get downloaded. In Excel based tool, there are certain fields which are available where you have to upload all the details in that Excel based utility. In the similar manner, if you all people are using GST portal Excel utility, how you are uploading your GSTR1 in the similar manner, that information will be there in your bulk generation tool Excel based utility, where you feed all the details, all the required columns: invoice number, GST number, invoice date, description of the goods, HSN number, then your value of the goods, GST. All this information you are supposed to put or feed in this Excel based utility. Once you feed all the details, you have to validate validate the Excel utility. If there are certain errors, that error will be thrown. You need to correct it, and once this error is resolved, in that case, JSON file will get generated. Okay. Now, once you get the JSON file, you have to go to bulk upload tab, which you can see on the left hand side of your screen. You just, when you click on the bulk upload, here you can select the JSON file and upload on the portal. So once you upload, it will process the data and it will show whether all your process data are perfect, and if there is any error, you can download that error in your Excel file also. Okay, and that file is also you will get a JSON number, also you get the IRN number which you can download on the in your Excel format, and then you can transfer it to your ERP if you want to go for the manual upload. Okay. You can also print the e-invoicing or from the IRP portal itself. There is one option, print. Here, when you click on the print, that screen will open, and here you have to enter your IRN number or acknowledgement number. If you have acknowledgement number readily available, then you can put the acknowledgement number. Otherwise, you can put the IRN number and just have to click on go, and then you will be able to see your invoice. Now this is the invoice which is being generated by the IRP portal. Here your GST number, your name will come, your IRN, whatever IRN you generated, that will come, acknowledgement number, acknowledgement date, and the same invoice. Only thing which is missing is your company logo. So if you have a small transactions, in that case you can generate the invoice from the IRN portal. If you don't want to incur additional cost for this, GST has provided you the facility. Okay, so this is a one more facility which is provided by this NIC portal is MIS report. So here for the last 2 days, how many IRN you have generated, how many IRN you have cancelled, you can get this information through this MIS report. So I have selected the period 15 December to 16 December. So I can see how many this IRN number I have generated. So this all information will be available on the portal. But the portal will give you only 2 days information, that is the current date and the previous date. Before that date, the information is not available. So if you want to download, if you want to see the status, you can see from this. And this is a good facility which is provided by MIS. I believe GST portal does not have much facility in the initial phase, but for the NIC portal, they had come up with a very good facility. Now this IRN file you can download in JSON format also, download in Excel format also. If you want to upload this JSON in your ERP, if your ERP allows, then from here only you can download and upload on your ERP. That IRN number will automatically get updated in your system. Okay. Now this NIC portal has also allowed you to generate e-way bill directly from this from e-invoice itself. So here on the left hand side, you have to click on the generate e-way bill and select the acknowledgement number, IRN or date. If you select a date, all those IRN which you have generated, that will be available, and you can select any of the IRN number. If you have IRN number, you can select the IRN number, and acknowledgement number, you can select acknowledgement number. And after that, your e-way bill will get generated. So here, once you click, your e-way bill will get generated. Here is your e-way bill. So part A will automatically update it. And in case if you have provided the transportation detail, that will also get automatically updated. Otherwise, if your system do not allow to provide this transportation detail, or you do not have at that moment of time the transportation detail, after that also you can fill it in your portal and directly you can generate. So you don't have to log in again to the NIC portal for e-way bill and to generate. Here the department has provided you the facility to directly generate e-way bill for your e-invoice. Okay. Now the second option which is available is data API. Here you can directly generate e-invoice or e-way bill from your ERP itself. So I've just presented you before this demo of a Navision, where how you can generate e-invoice directly from Navision. Okay, this is the screen of your sale invoice where your customer details is incorporated. You just have to click on the post, and here your e-invoice, your IRN will get automatically generated. So this is the IRN which is generated. If you can see on this broad red box, this is IRN is generated. Your e-way bill is also get generated, because in this scenario, I put my transporter detail also. Then acknowledgement number and acknowledgement date will also be there. And the most important, QR code is also get generated.
Just to clarify here, with different ERPs, you can have these, these things integrated or, configured in your ERPs, where the ERP system is directly, integrated with the portal through a GSP ASP service, and those IR numbers and the details of the e-invoicing can be done through that. So what we just showed is to you is a screen of an ERP, like Navision is an ERP of Microsoft. So in that, how it can be done. So that just as a sample, we are showing you the screen. But in case you are using any different ERPs or accounting systems, you can talk to your respective service providers, and they can help you in doing this integration through your ERP systems or your accounting systems. We being working on Microsoft, we are we also work on Microsoft ERPs. So that's why we have developed in the Navision ERP, and then that's the screen which we are trying to show you. Yeah, carry on.
So from this Navision, you will see your e-invoicing. So this is the e-invoicing which has been generated from the ERP itself. We don't have to log in anywhere. Just on a click of button, you are able to generate e-invoice. Okay. Now we come to how we will assist, Team Rama can assist you in e-invoicing. Kapil, can you please take up? You are muted, Kapil.
Yeah, you can move on. Yeah, right. So as Arifa explained you earlier, that if you are not required to really go on to the ERP, the e-invoicing portal of the government, and then every time while you are generating an invoice, every time you go there, upload the details and get the information and then raise an invoice. So there are various options which are available through your IT systems, through your ERP systems, by which you can integrate these systems and send the information on a click of a button from your ERP, from your accounting system, to the government's portal, and get the IRN number also at the same time. So these things are possible, and government have given the options for that. And the options the government has given, the IT teams and people like us, consultant like us, and Rama has developed those softwares for respective ERPs, where you can manage all these things within your ERP itself. Now, when we talk about ERP, there are multiple modes or ways through which you can connect to the government's portal. Your ERP can talk to the government's portal. One, as we call it, is a data API, or a data API method. Now, what is an API method? Is that these are this is a way of integration by which there is a direct real-time integration between the ERP system or your accounting system with the NIC portal. So now when there is a real-time integration through these data APIs, these APIs are made available by the government to all the IT companies and all the ASP, GSP solutions which are available. And by integrating these APIs with your IT systems, with your ERP systems and your accounting systems, it can be done as the example, as in the example it was shown to you by Arifa earlier for Navision. Second, also there is another way which is available where you can, instead of having a direct integration on a real-time basis on a click of a button, it can be done through a CSV file as well, in which the information related to the invoices is compiled in a CSV file, again done automatically through your ERP or your accounting, and then pushed to the NIC portal as a bulk data, or as like multiple invoices if you want to push, that also can be done. So that we call it as upload API. Now there is another way. If the ERP system is not there is difficulties in customizing these things in ERP system or developing these things in ERP system, there is another way of as we call it SFTP mode. In this SFTP mode, what happens is there is a file which gets generated. There is a file which gets generated through the ERP system. Again, it is done automatically. The difference between API and SFTP would be, in case of API, it is like complete end-to-end automation of the process. You just have to click a button and the information will flow into the NIC portal. Also, you will receive the IRN as the information gets processed in the NIC portal. So that is 100% and complete end-to-end automation. SFTP is also one way of automation, but the way of automating the things is slightly different. Here, the ERP and the required GSP, ASP solution which connects you to the NIC portal does not get integrated as such, but through the ERP, there is a file which gets generated, which is saved in any of your computers, your servers, and from there it gets picked up. So there is no direct connection, but it happens through a file. Although this is also kind of an automated process. Now, API is best suited for organizations where you have larger number of transactions, where the number of invoices generated are large, and even the line items in the invoices are more. So in those kinds of scenarios, we suggest that you go for a complete integration of your ERP through these APIs. And if you don't have those large number of transactions, if it is moderate and you are okay with having a real-time integration, not having a real-time integration, so in that case, SFTP mode can also be used. Other than that, there is a manual upload, which Arifa already explained to you in detail, that there is through the manual uploads on directly to the NIC portal, you can also do that. So these are the three different methods and ways by which you can connect or configure your ERP system to help you in generating the e-invoicing without really getting onto the portal and doing it manually on the NIC portal. If any questions are there, we can take at the end of the session related to that. Yeah, you want to move on, Arifa, with this?
Yeah. Thank you, Kapil. So there are certain FAQs which has been released by the NIC. I have taken up only few FAQs which may be relevant to you people. What are type of applicability and what FAQs related to your invoice pattern and to what all entities are there. So I have taken up few questions from the FAQ. So first of all, first question is that whether any financial or commercial credit note need to be reported to IRP. So financial or commercial credit notes, debit notes means that any debit notes or credit notes which are doing adjustments in your books of accounts without impacting the tax. In that scenario, you are not supposed to upload these credit notes on your IRP portal. Okay. Second question is that if you are doing any high C sales or bonded warehouse sales are there, in that scenario, whether e-invoicing is applicable. So the answer to this question is no, because for these high C sales and bonded warehouse, these are not the taxable supplies. So therefore, they are neither supply of goods nor a supply of services, because these do not touch the boundary of India. Therefore, this is specifically excluded and in Schedule 3 of the CGST Act. Therefore, no e-invoicing is applicable for these transactions. Sales unit, I think I've already taken up, so we move to the next question. Whether e-invoicing is applicable to invoice issued by the invoice service distributor. So answer to this question is no. For ISD, they are not supposed to generate any e-invoice. But when you are doing any stock transfer, in that scenario, yes, you are supposed to generate e-invoicing. But any inputs which you are distributing through ISD, no e-invoicing is required. Okay. Now, the next question is whether e-invoicing is applicable for supplies involve reverse charge mechanism. So the answer to this question is that if the provider of the service is a registered person and if their turnover is more than 500 or 100 crores, in that scenario, they are supposed to generate e-invoice where they have to tick option as RCM is applicable, yes. And if the supplier of the service is URD, that is an unregistered person, then in that scenario you are not supposed to service recipient is not liable to generate any e-invoice. Okay.
In the first scenario, can you re-explain? In the first scenario,
if the person is taxable, person is registered person in GST and their turnover is more than 100 crores. 500 was earlier. Currently 100 crore, more than 100 crore turnover is there, and they are supposed to generate e-invoice. Say for example, a legal service provider, say for example a GTA, if you can say a GTA whose turnover is more than 100 crore. So they are supposed to generate e-invoice where they will tick RCM applicability. But service recipient are not supposed to generate e-invoice either their vendor is registered or whether they are unregistered.
thank you. That's the good point.
Okay. So next question is that I think Srinivasan ji has asked this question whether I can upload the backdated invoices. So is there any time window within which I need to report invoice to IRP? In that scenario, no such validation is kept as of now on the portal. So currently, if you are sitting on the 17th December, you can generate e-invoice for 1st December or pre-December also. For November also you can generate the e-invoicing. There is no such restrictions as of now, but going forward department may bring this type of limitations on the portal. Okay. Now next question is, can e-commerce operator generate e-invoice on the behalf of the seller on their platform? So yes, e-commerce operator may generate e-invoice on behalf of the seller. So the option is open for both of them. For e-commerce also they can generate, or if the seller wish to generate e-invoice, they can also generate. So any of the two can generate the e-invoice for the sale happened through e-commerce platform. Okay. Now the important question is, you all are aware about the TCS, this is tax collected at source. So there is no, as of now, schema available for the tax collected at source. There are certain taxpayers who are charging TCS on their invoices. So they have a dilemma where to incorporate this TCS amount in e-invoicing. So they had come up with a clarification for any other charges. You can put the TCS amount there and your invoice will get generated. Okay. Printing of invoice, IR and QR code. I've already explained that when you are printing on the invoice, QR code is mandatory as per rule 46. But if you are not putting IRN number, acknowledgement number, then it's okay. It will be a valid tax invoice till your QR code is mentioned on the invoice. So I already explained. Do I need to print IRN number? QR code is not necessary. Now, next question is whether can I amend any information which I have sent on the IRP portal. So the NIC portal has clarified that as of now, you cannot amend any information in the invoice. Once you have clicked on the to generate IRN number, after that you cannot change any information in the invoice. Only option available with you is you cancel the invoice by selecting the cancel API. Otherwise, you can raise a debit note or credit note. Okay. Secondly, can you cancel the invoice? Yes, you can cancel the invoice just within 24 hours from the time of reporting of invoice to IRP. So within 24 hours, if you feel you have wrongly generated the invoice, you can send a cancel. But important point is that once you generate one invoice number, if you have cancelled that invoice, you cannot regenerate that invoice number again. I'll explain you with example. Say for example, you have generate invoice number Rama/001 and you upload it on portal. After 2 hours, you come to know that you have wrongly generated this invoices. Then you again cancel that invoices. Now, when you again generate the invoice, you cannot generate with Rama/001. You will have to generate a new number for this invoice. Okay. Linkage with e-way bill and GST return. I already explained to you that once this e-invoicing is implemented, your e-way bill and your GST returns will also get auto populated. So this is the end of all this e-invoicing. Whatever questions are there, we can take up in later part of this presentation. We will now go to the next topic, that what is the impact of Rule 36(4) input tax credit and the GSTR 2B. So
just a small question, if you allow me, just a very, very small question.
Yeah, please.
Whether QR code and the IRN number is mandatory on the invoice which we send to the customers?
I told you, the QR code is mandatory. IRN number is not mandatory.
Okay, thanks.
QR code itself is embedded the IRN number. So if you scan that QR code, you will get the IRN number. So it's not required your IRN number to be printed on invoice. Only QR is mandatory as per Rule 46.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, Arifa.
I just want one. Can I ask one question, please?
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to check, just from a kind of perspective of taking funding through this. So if someone goes for invoice discounting based on this invoice generated on the platform, and then, supposedly, I mean, it's a supposition, but if the person goes and then cancels the bills after raising funds, I mean, are these frauds possible, or do you think it is not, the system has been built around to take care of such frauds?
So that too, I think within 24 hours they can cancel the invoice. In that scenario, maybe it will be a risky for the bank who is discounting this invoice. So basically, bank need to wait for at least for 24 hours. In that case, he may accept your invoice for discounting at a later date, not on the same date.
Sure. Thank you so much.
That can be happen.
Thank you so much.
Arifa, Bhavin here.
Yeah, Bhavin.
As of now,
Bhavin.
as of now, the government has the data of the discount on invoice which we are giving to customer as of now before going on to this e-invoicing. अगर मैं 10% डिस्काउंट दे रहा हूँ तो आज की डेट पे गवर्नमेंट को पता है कि मैं 10% दे रहा हूँ इनवॉइस पे, और आगे जाके उनको पता चलेगा कि मैं 10% अभी दे रहा हूँ. दोनों में डिफरेंस.
Bhavin ji, for the information is quite huge in this scenario. So see, discount is basically a company policy.
Yeah.
So we can defend on that part. Earlier, my policy was 10%, and after that, my policy has changed to 15% or 20%. So I don't think there will be any issue for that until unless your discounts are varied from 10% to 80%. In that scenario, definitely the department may come up with the questions for this. But we should be ready with our answers. But I don't think there will be any problem for this.
So my question is कि अभी गवर्नमेंट को पता नहीं कि मैं 10% दे रहा हूँ, लेकिन ई इनवॉइसिंग के आ जाने के बाद उनको पता चल जाएगा कि मैं इनवॉइस में 10% दे रहा हूँ.
ओके.
वो उनको इंफॉर्मेशन मिल जाएगा ना ई इनवॉइसिंग में जाने के बाद, क्योंकि मेरा पूरा डेटा IRP पोर्टल पे
on the portal, because e-invoicing itself has a column for the discount. Definitely they may come up, but I don't think there will be any issue on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah. Can we take questions at a later stage? Let us first finish up this. Only 4-5 slides are remaining for 36.
Yes, that would be more feasible. Arifa ji, please continue.
Yeah. Okay. So we come with this rule 36.4. First, we will explain you what this rule 36.4 means, and then the differentiation between 2B and with a few examples that will help you in computation of ITC. Okay. Now we come to what is rule 36.4. So somewhere around in October, department has come up with a notification, and where they had amended the rule 36.4, where it said that whatever ITC the taxpayer is taking as of now in GSTR 3B, they are supposed not to be more than 10% of eligible credits which are reflected in your GSTR 2A. Okay, so in that scenario, what the taxpayer is supposed to do, they have to download their purchase register, and simultaneously they have to download the 2A also, and then they have to compare with this inputs. Whatever matched credits are available in your purchase register, you can eligible to take 100% of that matched credit plus additional 10% of the matched credit with respect to your unmatched credits. So if you can see with the example, first of all, my eligible ITC which is available on purchase register for the month of January is 1 lakh. So I have produced before you two type of scenarios. What has happened before this rule 36.4 and what has happened after rule 36.4 is implemented. So my total ITC in purchase register is of rupees 1 lakh. Okay. Now on 11th on 12th morning I download the 2A, where my 2A reflect is 60,000 input tax credit for that particular period. After that, I match all the credit and I come to know that my 40,000 credits are not matching. Only 60,000 credit is matching in my 2A. So earlier, what I have to do, I don't have to match anything. I will take 1 lakh rupees in my GSTR 3B. Now, after the implementation of Rule 36, what it says that 60,000 is available in our GSTR 2A, and from 1 lakh 60,000 is perfectly matching in your 2A. And suppose that there is no ineligible credits, say your rental cab and motor vehicle expenses are not there in a particular month. In that scenario, the 60,000 input tax credit match with your purchase register. What the government put is after 60,000, you have to apply the 10% provisional credit on rupees 60,000, that comes to 6,000. So you are eligible to claim input tax credit in your GSTR 3B up to 66,000 only. So earlier you are supposed to take ITC of 1 lakh. Now you are, after implementation of rule 36(4), your input tax credit will reduce to rupees 66,000. So in this scenario, your 34,000 input tax credit will be a blockage of your credit if you are discharging your liability through cash. Okay. Now there is one more concept which has come, 2A and 2B. So what is 2A? 2A means whatever inputs are reflecting in your whatever inputs which has been uploaded by your customer on your behalf, it will be auto populated in GSTR 2A, and as and when your customer upload GSTR, vendor upload GSTR 1, your 2A will get auto populated. Okay. Now what does GSTR 2B? In GSTR 2B, the current month, whatever month you select, that month input will be included in GSTR 2B. So for example, for the month of November, you are supposed to download GSTR 2B. So in that month, whatever vendors you have uploaded your details in their GSTR1 will get auto populated till 11th of October. If you're pulling out the detail of November month, so your 11th December will be the date. Till date, whatever returns have been filed by our vendor will get auto populated in their GSTR2B. For example, your vendor has filed September month return on 10th of December. Okay, so your 2B will get the information of your September month data. Okay, now one scenario, if we take your, for the month of November, your vendor has filed the return on 16th December. That input will not be covered in 2B because your vendor has filed the return delay. That input will get auto populated in your December month 2B. Okay, but if you compare with GSTR2A, GSTR2A will get the information. You will get the information about your vendors GSTR1, where here that input, even if you had filed with the delay, that input will get auto populated in GSTR2A. So before these 2 days that come up with the clarification, department has clarified that from November 20 months onwards, whatever information is available on 2B will get auto populated in your GSTR 3B. And department has told that if you want to take extra credit, you can edit that table 4 where the information is all other ITC table. You can update that, but only up to 110%. If you exceed the 110% of GSTR 2B amount, in that scenario, your that your box will get red in color. In similar manner, when you are doing for filing this GSTR 9, your box get red color if your amount is varied up to about 20%. In this case, if you exceed 10%, in that scenario, your box, your table will get red in color, and it will be auto populated to your department. So we have to be very careful while we are filing this month return from this month onward. Portal is allowing you to take ITC, but in that scenario, it will be a pop-up for you that your ITC is more than you're eligible, and the department may send you a notice for the clarification. Okay, so just a small distinction between 2B and 2A. 2B is static, that is the information till 11th of the every month it will get freeze, and 2A is a dynamic, as in when your vendor file the return, your 2A will get updated. So what are the information source of GSTR 2B? Is the GSTR 1, 5, 6, and IceGate system would not provide TDS and TCS deductions. So IceGate say you will get the information about the imports. So your GSTR 2B will also get the auto-populated inputs from the imports also. In GSTR 2A, GSTR 1, 5, 6 but IceGate system is not activated for GSTR 2A. Okay, utility is available for ITC reconciliation. Excel-based utility is available on the portal where you can download. You can also verify your ITC. And GSTR 2A, it will be difficult for you if you have downloaded for a particular month to verify this. You have to start from the beginning when you want to do the reconciliation. And in a click of button, 2B will get generated, but for 2A, it will take 20 minutes per GSTN to download a small number of transactions. Input tax credit on importer goods already explained that IceGate will auto-populated the information for in GSTR 2B, but in GSTR 2A, there is no such facility. So we'll quickly run through the examples. What are the inputs which are available and what are the discrepancies which will happen. Okay, the first case study we have taken that if you are filing a GSTR 3B for the month of November, our eligible inputs as per purchase register is equal to eligible ITC as per GSTR 2B. So say for example, my CGST is 500, SGST is 500. In my 2B also 500 and 500 is reflected in CGST and SGST. In that scenario, my ITC is perfectly matching with my 2B. So I don't have to put any formula, nothing I have to do. I can just check the ITC which is auto-populated in my 3B and I can file the return. So this is the scenario. I think it is the least possible scenario as of now because we definitely get any mismatches. Now we come to the case study 2, where my eligible ITC as per purchase register is less than the ITC as per GSTR 2B. Okay, so for example, my purchase register input tax credit, say it's a 2500. Okay, and ITC as per GSTR 2B is 2450 only. Okay, CGST is 1500 and CGST of rupees 2450. Okay, so if I took as an additional 10%, in that scenario, my eligible ITC as per purchase register is lower than my eligible ITC as per GSTR 2B. So what I have to do, I have to put the 110% formula on the 2B amount, that is 2450, 1450 and 1450. Here my ITC for IGST is 2695 as compared to the ITC as per purchase register 2500. It means that my eligible ITC as per purchase register is lower than my eligible ITC as per GSTR 2B. In that scenario, I can take minimum of both of them. So as of now, I can take inputs only of my purchase register, that is 2500. I'm not eligible to take the 10% additional of whatever reflecting in my 2B. Okay. Next scenario is this, where the eligible ITC as per purchase register is more than the eligible ITC as per GSTR 2B. So if you see on the left hand side, ITC as per GSTR 2B is 1250, CGST is 2500, SGST 2500. I'll put 110%, and my eligible ITC as per 2B will be 1375, 2750 and 2750. Now this ITC I need to compare with my purchase register. In case of IGST, my purchase register shows input of 2000. However, I am eligible to take only 1375. In this scenario, I have to take minimum of both. In our scenario also, I have to take minimum of both, and in this scenario also, I have to take minimum of both. So in this scenario, I can take ITC only as per GSTR 2B plus additional 10%, that is 1375. And this I cannot eligible to take the whole figure of 2000. So 625 will be my cash block. Okay, so this activity you are supposed to perform every month. You have to download your 2B, you have to match it with the purchase register. Whatever inputs are matching, you're eligible to take 100%, and after that you can apply the formula of 10% on the matched credit and you can avail the ITC. So once you, if for example, in the previous example where the ITC was coming at rupees 1375, but you have availed 2000 because you want to avail this 2000 input. So when you do this, this table will get in red in color. If you see this eligible ITC, it will get red in color and you will get a warning, but this is just a warning. You can proceed with this figure also and you can find the return. So this red box will be a warning to you and an intimation to the department that this has been access availed by your taxpayer, and you may receive a notice from the department to clarify the same. So this is from my side. If you have any questions with respect to e-invoicing or this rule 36.4, we can take up.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, as you said that we can generate the
Just a minute. Your voice is little bit not clear. Hello?
Yeah, now it's clear.
Yeah, it's clear now.
Yeah, as you stated that backdated invoice we can generate the as a current state currently, but you said that there is no acknowledgement number, as you said that, right? Even though there is no acknowledgement, it's valid invoices for backdated invoice.
Acknowledgement number is not required to be printed on invoice, but IRP portal will send you acknowledgement number.
Okay, but QR code and IR code is it will be generated for backdated invoice also.
Yes. Acknowledgement number will be current dated, but your IR and your invoice number will be backdated.
Backdated. But as you said that relaxation area, what can you let me know provisions? Can you explain?
See, relaxation was only given for the October month invoices. As of now, there is no such relaxation which is provided. The only facility which is provided by this portal is that they are allowing you the e-invoicing. So as of now, we are also not aware whether department can issue a notice to you or not. And no such penalties has been described in the law as of now. So we can assume that only the general penalties which is there in GST law, that is a 25,000, which may be imposed upon you if the department feels you have done a non-compliance with respect to e-invoice.
Okay, generally how long for e-invoice? What is the time limit for generating e-invoice?
There is no time limit defined.
No, suppose if you post one invoice today itself, suppose if you forget e-invoice, generating e-invoice, coming days, how long it will be valid for that one, whether 2 days or 1 day or
that's what I'm saying, that nothing has been mentioned. That is why you are able to generate backdated e-invoice, no?
No. Backdated invoice means that is so long backdated invoice for October, November. For current now, whatever we suppose we are running the e-invoicing, generating the invoice from October onwards. Today, suppose if we raise any invoice today, if you forget the same generated invoice, next day we are moving that one.
Yes, you can generate. No such restrictions has been placed. So if I correctly understand your question is that you have posted the entries in the system till for 1 week, but you have not generated e-invoice. In the next week on Monday, you generate all the e-invoicing from 1st to 7th, right?
Yes, correct.
You can generate. No such restrictions has been placed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, hi Arifa.
Hi.
If मेरा 2B का question है, if
tell me.
In the current period my 2B is showing an extra credit, let's say by 100 rupees it's showing extra credit, so I can claim that. मेरे purchase books में I haven't registered it, मेरे purchase books में invoice entry नहीं हुआ है, that has been entered in the next month. So next month में मेरा उतने से ITC would be less in 2B and more in my purchase books. So next month में वो मेरे को ITC block करेगा?
next one में it will not block you क्योंकि it's a 2B का figure they are considering as 2B only, but it will be a challenge for you to match that invoices. Now for next month, how will you match that invoices? And secondly, you are supposed to take only eligible input. So if you have not booked the invoice in your system, how would you know whether this invoice is eligible to you or not?
Suppose मेरे को vendor ने bill generate किया है on 30th. I got the bill on 7th of the next month. So I booked it on 7th. I booked it on 7th or 15th. Invoice on 15th. So मैं तो next month में ही credit लूँगा. It's an eligible credit.
Definitely, this is a bigger question for everyone, that for the invoices for this month input, there are certain invoices which belongs to previous period also. So that's the question in everybody's mind. So my suggestion is that we should take the input and keep a reconciliation ready for the department notice, that out of the total match credit of November, these many invoices belong to my previous period, which are already matched in 2A, but due to my internal issues of not booking in the system, I booked in the current month, I am eligible to take the credit. So that practice we may follow.
Okay, all right.
Any other question you people have?
Yeah, Arifa, I came to know that invoice and e-way bill, for example, invoice is on a bill to ship to model, और e-way bill में भी वही same bill to ship to होना चाहिए, या तो dispatch from नहीं कर सकते, जैसा e-invoice का JSON फाइल है वही e-way bill का JSON फाइल होना चाहिए, ऐसा मैंने कहीं पे.
But in dispatch from you can mention now in e-invoice, in e-invoice format, that dispatch from, I don't think it's a mandatory, it's an optional field for you. So in dispatch from you make it compulsory and you put the dispatch from and ship to detail. So in that scenario, that information will auto-populate it in your e-way bill also.
So they both should talk to each other, no? E-invoice and e-way
definitely
bill.
Yes. Both should talk to each other. Both should have the same thing which is there.
Yeah.
In your e-invoice and e-way bill also.
Okay.
Hi, Vasudev here.
Yeah, hi Vasudev.
I suppose quarterly, if my vendor is filing quarterly return, then I am not able to claim the input.
Right. So for the quarterly return filers from 1st January 2021, the department has come up with a solution that is a IFF. So invoice furnishing facility is there, where if your quarterly return filers are there, and if they wish, they can upload the invoices through IFF facility, where their customer would be able to take the input tax credit if they reflect it on the portal.
Okay.
There comes the relaxation. Yeah.
What is the specialty?
Invoice furnishing facility, IFF.
Okay.
That's from 1st Jan 2021.
Okay.
Hello. Yeah, hi ma'am, Sanjeev here.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So ma'am, just I want to know, in case of e-commerce company, whether any goods or service has been mandatorily put into the portal, that this kind of invoices need to be generated by e-invoice e-commerce company?
Yes. B2B only, not B2C.
Okay.
If you're selling to B2B, in that case, you are supposed to, that e-commerce operator or the seller, they are supposed to generate this invoice.
Okay, but it has, whether it is mandatory, matlab, first on whom the liability, matlab, the seller or the e-commerce?
This optional given to both of them. If you read the document in FAQ, it's being given optional. Whether liability is maybe on both e-commerce also or in this, but they both have to decide whom they have to generate the e-invoice, whether e-commerce portal or your seller. So the liability department may throw a liability on the seller is the first person to whom the liability may come. So better to before start with this operation, you should better communicate with your e-commerce operator to whom who will generate the invoice.
Okay, okay, understood. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
TCS we need to compulsory declare in the returns.
Come back.
TCS whether we need to compulsory declare in the return.
Return which return?
In normal returns, GST 1 and all, whether we need to display.
No. TCS is basically your income tax, na?
Yeah, income, but recently they announced that TCS on goods also we need to pay.
So taxable value, in taxable value you have to add back that value, add that amount. In taxable value you have to add.
Oh.
IRN need to generate without TCS, correct?
Sorry?
IRN need to generate without TCS only.
No. You have to mention on other charges, no?
Other charges. Why?
Yes.
Okay.
Because TCS will be applicable on your GST amount also, no?
Yes.
So that is why you have to mention that.
Okay.
But in that case, how we can add the once again we can add to the taxable value?
Sorry?
No, you said that as you said that TCS value you have to add back the taxable value.
Taxable value, yes.
But it's once again it will be tax will be calculated, right?
No. TCS. Just a minute, my colleague Rohan will answer your question.
Hello.
Yeah, Rohan.
Yeah. So actually you have to put the TCS amount into the other charges column. So it will not be included in the taxable value. So this TCS should be put in the other charges column and the tax will be calculated on the taxable value only.
But there is no option, right? Other charges and all in return itself.
Pardon?
So in GST return, you are not supposed to show the TCS amount.
And that's why there is no option, right? Normally.
Yeah, there is no option.
So he is talking about basically invoices. You are not supposed to show anything in GST return.
Yeah. In that case, our whatever books maintaining total invoice value, but as per GST total invoice value, it will be shows obviously difference.
Difference, yes. Yeah. If you're adding a TCS in that. If you're adding a TCS in invoice, then definitely.
See, sir, there are two options in that case. To collect the TCS, there are two options. Now you can collect the TCS. It means first option is you are putting TCS into your invoice value, right? Means on the invoice there is a TCS also, 1% TCS also you're booking at the time of creating the invoice itself. And the another option is to collect the TCS is to raise the debit note at the time of collection. Okay. So if you are using the first option where you are putting the TCS amount on the invoice value, so in that case, the total invoice value which will go into the your GST return would be including the TCS amount. And in the second option where you are just raising the debit note for collection of the TCS at the time of receipt of the money, in that case the invoice value would be without TCS in the GST return.
Second option, okay. Anyway, we are collecting separately.
Yeah. So in that case, the invoice value would not include your TCS amount. But in the first option, where you are, writing the TCS amount on invoice itself, then invoice value will include your TCS amount as well, and which will be reflecting your GST one also. But that is only in the invoice value. Taxable value and tax would be the same.
Invoice value will be different. as per your invoice and as per the GST returns.
It's obviously difference only, right?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Yeah. If in
But
case
it will match with your invoice value.
Yeah. Anyway, department they will ask taxable value and that 9C9 whatever is showing that taxable value and tax only, not invoice value.
Yeah.
In that case, there is no issue.
And they also, because they also have idea about this TCS right now, so maybe in future, they may come up with some clarification regarding this also.
Oh, thank you.
So Arifa, samples issued on delivery challan, उस पे भी ये स्कैन QR कोड और आएगा वो?
And it is a B2B or B2C? B2B होगा तो definitely it will come.
FOC है, मतलब नो कस्टमर, ऐसे ही फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट दे रहे हैं सैंपल, लेकिन डिलीवरी चलान पे दे रहे हैं.
It will be B2C.
It will be sample, okay, but what is the GST number or address of the customer? It's a registered person or you are?
No, unregistered or
Unregistered में there is not required, no?
there
is no requirement.
और अगर registered है तो?
In that case, yes.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Yes, Arifa ji. I think almost all questions have been resolved.
Okay.
You have answered it in a very simple and lucid way. But still, as a formality, let us ask any more questions from the participants? Then they are welcome, please. Anyways, it was a nice presentation from your side. Very simple and lucid, as I said. And briefing the complicated but new law in a very simple way for better understanding of the entire participants here. Lots of questions, lots of confusions, but definitely most of the queries almost are resolved with your presentation. Some auto populations, some matching, and definitely there has to be some mismatching, but all is part and parcel of the game. Initial teething problems shall ought to be there. We all have to understand this, but that is why the experts like Rama Group are there, and they can help us, they can assist us in this direction. Having said that, I would like to once again thank you, Arifa ji and Bansal ji, Kapil Bansal ji, for their nice presentation and devotion of time for this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. And also to the participants for their patience hearing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. With all this, I would like to with all this, I would like to hand over the things to Rajesh ji, Rajesh Khemani ji. If you would like to add something, otherwise this is end of the session. I don't know whether he's there. Rajesh ji. Anyways, I think he might have been preoccupied somewhere. But Arifa ji, Kapil ji, we should end the meeting now.
Yeah. We can end.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Welcome. Good day.
Thank you, Arifa.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you to all. Thank you.